Good evening. My name is Catherine All, and on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Kitsap, I want to welcome you to the 23rd Legislative District Representative Position number 2 virtual forum. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that doesn't support or oppose political parties or candidates. After careful study and consensus by our members, the League does take positions on issues, and we take action on those positions at the local, state, and national level. We would like to acknowledge that our homes and gathering places in the 23rd Legislative District are within the ancestral territories of the Suquamish and S'Klallam peoples, and those two tribes are an important part of the district. Here are the rules for tonight's forum. Each candidate will have 1.5 minutes for an opening statement. Then we will have questions. Candidates will have 1 minute each to answer questions submitted by the public. Following that, each candidate will have 1.5 minutes for a closing statement. The candidates, in the order they will be on the ballot, are Greg Nance, John Gibbons, Jamie Miles, and Bryn Felix. We sent the Zoom link to all candidates and the invitations to all candidates, but we did not receive a reply from Jamie Miles. But if she connects after we've started, we'll work her in at whatever point we are. Okay, so the candidates will give their opening statements in the order they'll be on the ballot. And so, Greg, we'll start with you.
Wonderful. Catherine, thank you for that introduction. And thank you to the League of Women Voters of Kitsap for all you do to help us build civic bridges and to inform and educate our neighbors. Our work has never been more important than right now, and it's sincerely appreciated for y'all convening. Candy, thank you for timekeeping. Catherine for moderating, and Maury for convening. I also want to thank each of our candidates for stepping up. Dr. Miles, Dr. Gibbons, Ms. Felix. It's difficult stepping up to run for office. It's difficult bringing ideas forward, and I really appreciate the spirit in which each of us is campaigning. I also want to thank everyone tuning in. The fact that we have such an engaged and inspired community is why Kitsap is thriving. Despite the challenges that we face, neighbors across the peninsula care and care deeply. And for those reasons, I am honored to be your state representative, to be fighting for our community down in Olympia. This community raised me. I'm proudly a K-12 public schools grad right here in Kitsap, the son of a union social worker who oversaw nursing homes across the peninsula. And I'm proud to be a voice for us to fix our ferries, to rebuild our healthcare workforce, to expand childcare access affordably for everyone, and to be a voice and a representative that listens, that takes action, and that is delivering for Kitsap. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Dr. Gibbons?
Yes, good evening. My name is Dr. John Gibbons. I'm a immediate past president of the Washington State Dental Association. I'm a children's dentist who has practiced in Silverdale for over 35 years. I'm a native of Kitsap County. I was born here, went to grade school, high school, and my first year was at Olympic College on a wrestling scholarship. When I got into private practice, I was dismayed to find that there were children that were living in pain. That was unacceptable. So I contacted Senator Office, and together we created a bill that created greater access to care for children with disabilities, a bill that is actually affects several thousand children a year here in Washington State and is a template for other states to do the same thing. The reason why I'm running is because I think our healthcare system is broken. We live in the richest nation in the world, and yet our healthcare outcomes are some of the poorest amongst developed nations. This needs to be fixed. Everyone deserves access to quality and affordable health care. And when another part that we need to work on is giving access to care to our providers, and we do that by working again to fix our workforce shortages. Currently, I'm working with both the Olympic College and the Squamish Tribe to bring dental and other health care to their Paulsboro health science campus. I'm very excited about being in this race, and I do agree with Greg that we have two other great candidates. Thank you.
Thank you. And now, Bryn?
Hi, everyone. My name is Bryn Felix. I'm honored to be here. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for all the work that you've put into putting this together, and to the other three candidates in the race as well. A little bit about my background. I'm a working mom. I serve as general counsel at Peninsula Community Health Services, where I work on helping deliver equitable access to healthcare services for our community here in Kitsap County. I started my advocacy career at the ACLU of Washington, where I was a civil rights organizer and lobbyist. I worked on our marriage equality campaign, increasing voting rights access and criminal justice reform. After I became an attorney, I clerked at the state Supreme Court for Justice Mary Yu. I've also served as a law clerk for Senator Patty Murray on the U.S. Senate Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions. And before getting into advocacy, I was a classroom teacher. I taught pre-K kindergarten, high school music and such. And I'm running to increase our infrastructure of opportunity here in Kitsap County, which to me means equitable access to healthcare services, fully funding our schools, economic justice, environmental justice, and housing justice. And I'm incredibly proud to be endorsed by Representative Tara Simmons, former County Commissioner Rob Gelder, and to be the only Democrat endorsed by Planned Parenthood, Alliance Advocates, Pro-Choice Washington, and the American Federation of Teachers. It's been a really fun, robust primary, which highlights the best of our democracy, and just looking forward to tonight. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, and right before we start the questions, I want to just make this statement, that each one of you deserves our thanks for stepping up and running for office. Please be respectful of each other. You each deserve that. And now we'll start with the questions. And Greg, you get to go first on the first question. What are your funding priorities for the upcoming session? And would you consider cutting some of the corporate tax breaks?
Yeah, Catherine, thank you for the question. One of the big surprises as your state representative is the difficult balance we have. Everyone has priorities that we bring to Olympia, and the key is how do you build a majority to support your initiatives? And I am really proud of the work we accomplished together in the Capitol. I helped to sponsor legislation and build a bipartisan coalition with 27 co-sponsors that ended up leading to $80 million in new funding to fix our ferries. That is my top funding priority because we've chronically underfunded our boats and our staff for the last 20 years, and that's led to the situation we now have with 3,500 cancellations. The legislation I put forward, the funding we've advanced, has already cut cancellations in half. Good policy, good budget work, it matters and it helps us to deliver. As I mentioned, I also want to continue the work of expanding affordable childcare access. I sponsored legislation that passed unanimously with every legislator signing on and then the governor signing it into law. That will help over 1,000 families right here in Kitsap receive affordable childcare. It's a game changer that we need to continue building on. We also have a lot of hard work.
Your time is up, Greg.
Thank you, Catherine.
I know a minute goes fast. Okay. And the next person to answer is John. Is that okay if I call you John rather than?
Yeah, no, I appreciate if you call me John. Thank you.
Okay.
So my funding, first of all, I think funding shows what your true values are. And with me, my true values are people that are in pain. I don't believe that children should go to sleep at night in pain. I don't believe they should go to school in pain. And I think that that goes on to our other unsheltered people and the people that are needing our Medicaid help. So my top priority would be funding our Medicaid system to be able to take care of these people in such a way that they receive the treatment they deserve and that the providers are receiving the right amount of reimbursement so that they are motivated to see these patients. Both of those are very important to have a good, strong healthcare system. I would also say that the next things that I think are very important to fund would be housing. We have too many people that are unsheltered, and we need to make sure that that is taken care of. But housing isn't the only issue with our unsheltered. The other issues is that they need to have wraparound services, which would be their mental health, behavioral health, and substance use treatment facilities.
Okay, thank you. Bryn?
Thank you. I agree with John, and it's weird to not call him Dr. Gibbons, that budgets are moral documents. And so while I agree that we need a dedicated funding stream for ferries and reverse what Tim Eyman has done to our ferry system, for me, top priorities are investing in education, early learning, K through 12, fulfilling our paramount duty to fully fund our schools, and investments in our healthcare system. So this is increasing eligibility for Apple Health, which is going to cost money, but making sure that people are able to access healthcare services, access education, because again, that comes back to building out our infrastructure of opportunity. And I think the last part of your question was about corporate tax. I would not support reducing corporate tax. We need to be able to tax corporations that have made billions of dollars in revenue here in Washington state, and we need to make sure that it's equitable when it comes to our smaller businesses. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the second question, and John, you get to go first on this one. And so some of these have been addressed during your opening statement, but you can expand on it if you'd like. The legislature has added funding over the past several years to address homelessness and affordable housing, but it doesn't seem to be getting better. What more can be done?
Yeah, that is a very good question. The answer to that is, first of all, we do need to have more affordable housing. There's no question that that's a key component of what's happening with the people who are not able to find shelter. But we need to do things such as increase our emergency shelter, our temporary shelter, our transitional shelter, and then ultimately we need to have people that are able to get into permanent housing. That is definitely a major component of our people that are unsheltered. But when they do a point in time count, they also did surveys of why were you on the street? And a lot of them answered honestly that they had mental or behavioral health issues, that they had substance abuse issues. And I think that we need to have those wraparound services and reduce the barriers to those services so that those people can access that care also. If we don't have all of that, this will not work. So I think if we're seeing a problem, I think it's because we haven't put enough money into our behavioral health care system.
Okay, thank you. Bryn?
Sure. I think the best way to help reduce homelessness is making sure we're preventing it to begin with. I'm a strong proponent of rent stabilization and making sure that we're doing everything we can to help people stay in their homes. As a corollary to that, we saw during COVID how effective emergency rental assistance was in helping people stay in their homes. And policies like that can and do have immediate effects for especially tenants that I am strongly supportive of. As counsel at PCHS, I help build out our infrastructure that helps individuals who are experiencing homelessness and who are seeking shelter. So I know the strength of those public-private partnerships and would continue to invest in shelter, in permanent supportive housing and transitional housing for those populations. And the last thing I'll say is, because of the federal grants pass decision, I want to make sure that our state will prevent local jurisdictions from criminalizing homelessness and essentially codify the pre-existing, you can't do sweeps and ban encampments unless there is shelter available. Thank you.
Thank you. Greg?
Yes, we need to invest to build more housing. We're tens of thousands of units behind. We're falling further behind. I sponsored legislation to make it easier to build housing, which we know is at the root of this. We need more homes so that everyone has a place to live. I was proud to support the $127 million investment in the Housing Trust Fund that helps us to actually build more affordable housing. We also need to treat mental illness. We need to treat substance abuse. I've sponsored budget provisos to deliver funds right here for Kitsap. For Kitsap Mental Health Services, we're expanding our East Bremerton campus, and we're now building a North Kitsap Recovery Resource Center and Suquamish Health Center, all of which helps vulnerable neighbors in need. I've also sponsored large-scale public transit expansion programs so folks can actually get to work, can get safely to home, can get to the doctor. We know that saving our neighbors that are most vulnerable money helps them stay in their homes, and I'm proud to have delivered on each of those as your state representative.
Okay, thank you. Question number 3, Bryn, you get to go first. What should the Department of Transportation do in the near term, next 2 years, and in the longer term, 10 years, to improve the availability of functional ferries to keep the system able to meet its schedule? What role will you play in addressing those issues?
Great. Initially, in the next 2 years, we need to continue making investments to help rebuild our maritime workforce. There was just a great article in the Seattle Times today about the need to readjust and reevaluate the pay scale to make sure that we are bringing talent in who can help with ferry engineering and things like that. So assisting our workforce. And the other piece of it is an immediate step that we can take is we need to be able to do maintenance that has been deferred maintenance. One of the things that Washington law prohibits that is something that could be meaningful change is allowing Canadian shipyards to bid on our projects. Right now, there's an essential monopoly that prevents us from being able to do this maintenance. Long term, again, we need a dedicated funding stream for our ferry system to unwind the disastrous initiative that Tim Eyman put forward in the 90s that passed that has led us to be in this crisis to begin with.
Okay, thank you. John?
Is it okay?
No, it's Greg.
Oh, it's great. Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you, Catherine. I'm proud to serve as the vice chair of the legislature's Maritime Caucus, where I work directly on these issues. I mentioned in my opening, I proudly delivered $80 million in new funding to help fix our ferries, and that has already cut cancellations in half. So we know the right funding and the right policy matters, and it matters deeply. I'm proud to be chipping away at the $250 million deferred maintenance backlog. And I'm proud to have a seat on the Transportation Committee where we'll actually have a hand in selecting the upcoming bids, working hand in hand with the executive branch. My expertise on the ferries and ideas from neighbors. I hosted 7 Fix Our Ferries town halls. Many of y'all attending today gave me great ideas that I brought to the governor's office. I'm proud to be endorsed by Bob Ferguson, our Attorney General, by the leadership of the Transportation Committee, by the Ferry Workers Union, and 46 Democratic state representatives for my work on the ferries. I'm proud to be working hard and delivering to fix our ferries.
Thank you. Okay, now John.
Yes, okay. So we have a problem because ferries just haven't been a high enough priority for our state for way too long. They knew in 2008 that they were going to have 25% of their workforce age out, and yet because of the crisis at the time with housing, they didn't do anything. And so now we're at this point where we have workforce shortage, and we also have a shortage of boats. We only have 8 or 9 boats that are actually considered in good condition. This is actually unacceptable. We need to have a higher priority and definitely a stream of funding that will address this. Right now, we also have a problem with we want to make sure that our climate is good and that it's good for the future. But we are investing right now in electric ferries, and that bidding process is still taking way too long. And they say that the earliest that we'll get those ferries is 2028. I think we should go to diesel ferries as soon as possible.
Thank you. Okay. All of you got a chance to answer that one, right? Right. Okay. I'm back on track now. This is another related question to that, and it's what solution do you see for the traffic problems in Kingston when high ferry ridership occurs? And Greg, you get to go first on this one.
Wonderful. I'm on the Highway 104 working group where we're studying that issue and we're already putting it into action. We need WSDOT to step up and provide more traffic control. We need to get more cars off of our roadways, and part of that is investing in passenger-only ferries. I secured over $4 million in the transportation budget to do exactly that. So folks can travel from Seattle to Kingston and back without a car at all, getting more cars off of our roadways. Longer term, we need state and federal grants in order to redevelop Highway 104 and our neighbors in the northern part of the peninsula. I'm in touch with Senator Murray's staff on this very issue, working through how do we get state and federal dollars in conjunction to work together. And then we've got to keep investing in Kitsap Transit. I'm proud of the millions of dollars we delivered this session. We got to keep building that momentum and build more of a culture and more reliability around public transit so that every neighbor, regardless of your ability to drive, can safely get around and connect to our community.
Okay, thank you. John?
Yeah, this is a major problem, especially for those businesses that are in that corridor. And it's a problem in a lot of other areas too. On the other side of in Edmonds, this is a problem. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that we can, and again, I think it takes studies to make this happen, but you have to find a balance in which you can get these cars to the ferry terminal without interfering with the businesses at that point. And I'll be very interested to see how that coalition works to find solutions to do that. I do agree that the more public transit we can have, including the ferries that are the non-car ferries, the walk-on ferries, along with public transit, I think is very important to addressing that problem. But this is an issue that's going to take some time and some money to fix.
Okay, thank you. Bryn?
I have talked to so many Kingston residents that have struggled with getting home from work, getting to their kids, figuring out childcare and planning childcare around ferry traffic, as well as small businesses in the downtown corridor who've struggled due to the ferry congestion. So in the short term, we just need, I believe, funding for a traffic control contractor. When we're talking midterm, having investments in ATMS, the active traffic management system at Lindbog and 104 as part of that shoulder realignment as well. And to expand on what Representative Nance said, when we're talking about investments, we need more state investments to move the holding lot project forward to improve the quality of life for our community in Kingston.
Okay, thank you. Question number 5. We have a medical crisis with our only hospital and most providers in Kitsap County. What, if anything, can the legislature do to address this and to make sure all our medical groups follow state law regarding reproductive health and end-of-life care? And John, you get to go first.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, this is a big problem in Kitsap County right now. We have a hospital system that is limiting women's reproductive rights, gender affirming care, and also right to life issues, right to end of life issues. So, and I understand that that's because of the type of hospital system we have there. And I understand that they have that right, but to follow their religious beliefs. But I don't feel like it should impede on us being able to have access to those rights. And I think one of the solutions to that is creating maybe a hospital district. And I think that that would help us then find what we want in this area. I think there should be laws that limit these large corporations and nonprofits from taking over other hospitals and therefore restricting our options as far as healthcare goes.
Thank you. Bryn?
I'm proud to be the only candidate in this race who has been endorsed by Planned Parenthood and by Pro-Choice Washington. I am their choice to hold the line when it comes to defending our reproductive rights and freedoms, and I take protecting also gender-affirming care and end-of-life care very seriously. In terms of moving reproductive care forward, we need to increase our Medicaid reimbursement rates, which are among the lowest in the country and among the lowest for abortion providers specifically. So increasing Title X planning investments, and as well as I was part of the conversations this session around the Keep Our Care Act, and I know what needs to be changed on the bill. I know what the talking points have been to try to kill that bill. So if that bill gets reintroduced, and that's a big if, I would be supportive of that. I work as general counsel at PCHS. I have opened pediatric clinics, dental clinics, medical clinics. I know where those investments need to be made. And when it comes to end-of-life care, I drafted the Death with Dignity policy. There's more that needs to be done to change that state law to reduce barriers to that care.
Thank you. Greg?
Yeah, first off, I'm 100% pro-choice, and we need to hold the line and push forward to protect that for everyone. I am calling for a constitutional amendment to the Washington State Constitution so that forever, for every individual in Washington, their reproductive freedom should be guaranteed. That needs to happen. I am a big proponent of the Keep Our Care Act. In fact, I am the assistant Democratic whip. I helped rally votes to get that nearly to the finish line. There is work to be done. I am well suited with the relationships I have in the House to push that over the finish line, and I'm working to make exactly that happen. We also need better healthcare access for everybody. I was proud to deliver over $4 million for the new Suquamish Health Center, which will provide vital healthcare access for neighbors in the Northern Peninsula. We've got to push back against monopolies. We have to guarantee reproductive freedom, and we have to work with tribal partners efficiently and effectively so that we can help every single individual in our community get the healthcare they deserve.
Thank you. Okay, next question. What is your view on ranked choice voting? And Bryn, you get to go first.
I'm a huge proponent of ranked choice voting. I believe that it makes elections fairer. It makes it more equitable when it comes to fighting incumbency. It makes them nicer among candidates. And I strongly support it. I would strongly support the coalition that has been behind trying to move toward ranked choice voting. So fully supportive.
Okay. Greg?
Yes, I too am supportive of ranked choice voting. I think it elevates our civic discourse, helps build bridges more effectively between Democrats, Republicans, Independents, gets us talking again. I think our republic is sick and we need to learn how to work across the aisle again. As your state representative, I've taken a lot of heat because I've had co-sponsors who are Republican. I've sponsored bills that had a lot of Republican support. Ranked choice voting, I think, helps turn down the partisan temperature. We need to get stuff done for our neighbors. A lot of our neighbors don't really care if there's a D, an R, an I next to our name. They care deeply if we're delivering. And that's really the kind of public official that I am. I'm going to work hard for you. I'm going to deliver. Ranked choice voting helps more folks of that ilk rise to the occasion and work for our neighbors.
Okay, thank you. John?
Boy, there's so many things that we're all going to agree upon. This is one of them. I do agree that ranked choice voting would be a good move for us to make. And I would say it's for the same reasons that has been mentioned. I think that this is a way for us to create more bipartisanship on the way we approach legislation and those who are in the legislature. So without taking any more time, I would just say that's my take on that also.
Okay. That was easy. Okay. Next question. Do you think extreme weather events are increasing? And if so, how are they affecting the people in Washington state? Greg, you go first.
Yeah, without a doubt, extreme weather events are happening more and more. We've got to turn the tide because it's our most vulnerable neighbors that can't afford air conditioning, or that when it's really, really cold, can't afford the heat. We need to step up and deliver real climate solutions. I am calling for the first population study of Dungeness crabs to better understand a predictive species in our biggest fishery. I've been working on salmon recovery literally since first grade when I did a beach walk with a Suquamish elder. I know these issues deeply on climate change, from kelp forest to Olympia oyster beds to eelgrass. This is what I do. It's my passion. And it's a big reason why the 3 tribes who've weighed in on our race, the Suquamish, the Port Gamble Sklallam, and the Tulalip tribes, have all given me a sole endorsement. They know that I'm going to fight against climate change. I'm going to lift up our tribal neighbors and our most vulnerable neighbors that are most impacted by the climate crisis. That's the kind of leader I am in Olympia, and I am to continue that work for Kitsap.
Okay, John?
Yeah, I definitely believe that our climate is becoming more extreme, and I do believe that it has a lot to do with human endeavors that have created the carbon that has creating the heat in our atmosphere. I also believe that we're having increased rise in our sea levels. I think we need to prepare for that. I think some of our communities are already doing that. I think that we need to look at these 20-year plans, because if we don't look at them now, then we'll be caught off guard. I think that that's very important for our communities to keep looking at. I mean, we've had extreme heats here in this last few days, and I remember a few years ago when I was coming home from work, and I looked at my car temperature and it was 116 degrees, and they said that was as high as it was ever in Texas. That is a bad thing to be as high, anything similar to Texas. So, so yeah, I think there's things that we need to do, and I hope that we can get after it.
Okay, Bryn?
Yes, we are absolutely seeing more extreme weather events. We're seeing fires that's exacerbating asthma and climate change related health problems that disproportionately impact communities of color. We're seeing drought that's impacting agricultural industries. We're seeing rising sea levels that's impacting even homeowner insurance rates. And of course, sea temperatures that are impacting our marine life. So what are we going to do? I'm committed to bold climate action. I'm incredibly proud to be endorsed by Washington Conservation Action, as well as many environmental leaders in our community here locally. It is my goal to sit on not only transportation and healthcare, but also the Environment and Energy Committee. Washington Conservation Action understands and hopefully will help me get on that committee so that we can continue to make sure that we are reducing our reliance on fossil fuels, limiting carbon emissions, preserving our legacy forests, which help with carbon sequestration, and of course working on habitat restoration and wildlife preservation.
Okay, well, this is a follow-on question that I think I know the answer from each of you, but what is your position on Initiative 2117 that will be on the ballot in November, which would repeal the Climate Commitment Act? And we'll go in the same order. Greg?
Yeah, we've got to hold the line and fight for the Climate Commitment Act. I mentioned my work on the ferries. The only way this pencils out long term is if we hold the line and defend the Climate Commitment Act. For our children and grandchildren's well-being, we have to hold the line on the Climate Commitment Act. I'm a public transit champion. I've delivered massively in my first year in the legislature. So much of what we aim to do in the second and third inning here is all about holding the line and defending the Climate Commitment Act. That's how we unlock hundreds of millions and then billions of dollars for polluters to pay their fair share so that we can then invest in a healthier, cleaner future. I'm proud to be supported by Washington Conservation Action, by legendary environmentalist Phil Rockefeller, who proudly led the 23rd delegation as an environmental champion, helping to found the Puget Sound Partnership. All of that legacy work that I now build on as both a legislator and on our Salmon Recovery Board is the reason why we'll be able to delist summer chum from the Endangered Species Act. It's all about defending the Climate Commitment Act.
Okay, John?
Yeah, obviously, I'm also against repealing the Climate Commitment Act. So far, we've seen some great things. We have now electric buses that have been funded by that were in service here in Kitsap County. Our future with electric ferries is also in jeopardy if that is repealed. That is very important. Even though I say I'm in favor of diesel ferries right now, ultimately we need to get to the electric ferries. I just think we need to transition to that point. So the best way that we can do that is with using the money that we have from the Climate Commitment Act. Not only that, but I think it also is an incentive for industries to create less carbon emissions. And I think that that's a highly important thing that we're not thinking about right now. But I think ultimately, this is very important for them to change the way they are creating energy.
Okay. Bryn?
Yes, I oppose Initiative 2117. And in fact, one of my top priorities as I'm campaigning and knocking doors, and I've knocked over 8,000 doors, is talking with voters about the importance of voting no on 2117. I feel like it's my responsibility as I'm campaigning to make sure that our electorate is aware of all of the three initiatives and voting no, and talking about Climate Commitment Act and how those dollars translate into transportation investments locally. We've got this wonderful new Silverdale Transit Center. A lot of that money came from Climate Commitment Act dollars, the electrification of buses, the inductive charging stations. So really tying Climate Commitment Act dollars to how it impacts our local economy, our local transportation system, has been a huge piece of my campaign. I agree with what the others have also said, and just really would implore everyone watching, vote no on 2117.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, how will you stay connected with your constituents, not just the ones with the loudest voices? And John, you get to go first on this one.
Yeah, when you're elected, you're not elected to just represent those who voted for you. I think it's very important that we represent all those people that live in our district. And so there are definitely going to be opposing views at times, but I think it's very important to listen to those views. I find that by listening, that there's so many times that instead of being way apart, that you're actually very close to the same problem and able to address it in a way that's civil. So I think some of the things that you do is you have your town halls. I think that you do your newsletters. I think you make yourself available in between sessions to the public so that they can tell you what their concerns are. And I think what Bryn mentioned, I think that when you go door to door knocking, this is an opportunity also to talk to these people and find out what their concerns are and get to know them on a personal level. This is what I think is important.
Okay, thank you. Bryn?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question one more time?
Sure. How will you stay connected with your constituents, not just the ones with the loudest voices?
Thank you. I will continue doing exactly what I do now in community health. And I was an organizer before I was a lawyer. And true community organizing involves expecting people aren't going to come to you. And it involves being very intentional about seeking out which voices are not being heard, which stakeholders need to be at the table but aren't currently represented. So I am a strong proponent of not just town halls and newsletters and coffees, but actually going to other community events, seeking out the NAACP, seeking out places where younger people are convening and exchanging ideas. And it's about that accountability is about going, listening to concerns, listening to their solutions, amplifying that leadership of people who are not coming to the party, because there's so many people doing such great work, but it requires very purposeful, intentional outreach.
Okay, thank you. Greg?
Yeah, I was the single most active legislator and the single most accessible anywhere across the state this past session. I hosted 7 Fix Our Ferries town halls, along with 2 town halls with my seatmates. No one else across the entire state was that accessible. I penned 3 editorials for the Kitsap Sun, the Bainbridge Review, and then the Seattle Times on our ferry policy. And I broadcast a lot of the ideas I heard at those town halls. I hosted over 20 coffee chats all across the peninsula in every neck of the woods. I attended hundreds of Kitsap events since I was sworn in on September 18th. And I've gone to dozens of high school basketball games, football games, soccer matches, swim meets, because I want to meet folks where they're at. I want to connect with families and really hear the issues they deal with. And the result is I am the single most accessible and transparent member of the legislature. You have that now as your state representative. You've probably seen me at several events already, and you're going to see lots more of me too. And not just during campaign season, year-round, 365 days.
Okay, thank you. Okay, this next one Says, should the legislature provide more funding to school districts when many are having financial problems? Or should the legislature concentrate on academic problems of our students? For instance, only 32% of Bremerton students met standards in English language arts. Only 23%, 0.45% in math, and only 26.3% in science. And it's similar all over the state, but it seems that the state is more interested in giving money rather than providing support for these kids that are falling behind. Bryn?
Thank you. I often get frustrated when we're simply focusing on performance standards because I was a classroom teacher. I've taught pre-K kindergarten, I've taught elementary, junior high, and high school. And we need to be looking at the root causes of why kids are struggling and underperforming. And also I work at a health center that operates 12 school-based health systems, school-based health clinics. A third of those are behavioral health visits. Our kids coming out of COVID, they are sick, they are struggling, they are experiencing trauma. We need to understand the root causes of their suffering, which is impacting performance. There is a hidden crisis of rampant food insecurity. There are students that are homeless, and they are in situations where it's nearly next to impossible to learn. We need to make sure we are investing. Absolutely, we double down, we quadruple down on school funding, making sure that we're supporting our students and our workforce that are there supporting those students each and every day. So yes, we need more funding and look at those root causes of why, what help they need.
Okay, Greg?
Yeah, I'm a proud product of Kitsap K through 12 public schools. I now serve on the House Education Committee where we have to work through these budget difficulties, and they are difficult. We are in a difficult moment where we need to make trade-offs, and we have to really figure out where do we move the needle. Some things that are cost-effective that really help young minds learn better, helps youth mental health, helps well-being, is nutritious school meals. A lot of kids don't have the food they need at home. We can better help with targeted investments, especially in districts that have a high proportion of students on free and reduced school meals. We can make investments into youth mental health centers and help public schools become a community gathering place again for intergenerational mentorship and community events. We should also bolster after school for all. Every child deserves a safe place to play outside of the elements after school that allows their parents to work an extra 2 or 3 hours to earn enough to keep their family going. Those are all investments that are very, very efficient and effective, and that's what I support.
Okay, thank you. John?
Yeah, I agree that we need to spend more money, not less money. And I think, though, that there is some value in targeting how that money is spent for education. I think that I would agree with Bryn, that sometimes when we look only at standards that are achieved, I think that is misleading. And I agree that we should look at the source or the root of that problem. I agree that mental health issues are a problem. I think that, and I think definitely the pandemic actually illuminated that even more. So I think that having school counselors available and having a good ratio of school counselors to patients or to students is a very important thing too. So I would support more and more investment into this area of student education.
Okay, thank you. Next question. Do you support the police reform legislation that has passed the legislature, or do you think there should be more changes made? Greg?
Yes, I voted for restoration of police pursuit, and I did so after lengthy consultation with members of the community, from law enforcement to communities of color to our tribes. to friends that had background in the criminal legal system. We need to find the right balance, and only by passing that initiative is the legislature able to continue working on the issues of police accountability and police reform. It is a balance. We went too far in one direction, and the result was an increase in violent crime, an increase in property crime, an increase in carjacking. We've got to get the balance right. And by the legislature passing that initiative, by Constitution, we can continue working on that. As a member of the House Transportation Committee, we set the budget for Washington State Patrol. We help set standards for how we both recruit and train Washington State Patrol and police across the state. I will be a hawk getting the right balance so we have public safety and we have officers that proudly uphold the tradition for our communities.
Okay, John?
Yeah, I would say that public safety is very important. To say that I would support the police pursuit, I would say the way it turned out, I would say I have a hard time with all of it. But now we have an opportunity in the next session to adjust what was passed this last session. And I understand the strategy that took place to get us to this place. I would say that police pursuit of people who have expired tabs or a broken tail light is totally unacceptable. And if we need to, then we need to adjust so that that is taken care of, so that won't happen. On the other hand, we need to give the police the tools in order for us to have a safe environment around us. And I thought that the majority of that bill was very important to pass.
Okay, thank you. Bren?
I understood the strategy just like I understood the strategy around parental rights, and I would have been a firm no vote with Representative Simmons. I also talked with members of law enforcement and our NAACP and individuals who've been system impacted. And across the board, what I heard was we don't want to change from a probable cause to a reasonable suspicion standard. We have swung the pendulum back and forth so many times. I don't actually have faith that the legislature has the appetite to review this yet again. And so I think this is a perfect example of how we differ as candidates. There's times when our district itself and our constituents will disagree with what the state leadership's political strategy is. In those cases, I'm going to listen to my community and vote accordingly. I don't think our local law enforcement was clamoring for this change. They've done incredible police reform work before the bill. And certainly all of the leaders of color that I talked to were vehemently against rolling back the police pursuit standard. And I would have stood with them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Since there continues to be food insecurity for many Washington state children, would you support the state providing free breakfast and lunch programs for all children? Why or why not? John?
Yeah, well, this is one of those balanced ones too. I would actually support having everybody available, have both breakfast and lunch available for all students. I think that there's too much of a stigma attached to if you're the person that is getting free lunch versus the person who's paying for the lunch. I think that that's unnecessary. I do think that if families feel like they can afford the lunch and they want to contribute to a program to help fund that, I think that would be a great option for them. But I do think that having food insecurity really affects the ability of children to be able to study and learn appropriately. Just like as a pediatric dentist, I think it's very important that they don't have decay in their mouth that causes them to have pain while they're at school. I think these things need to be all addressed.
Thank you. Bren?
Yes, I wholeheartedly support feeding kids, whether that's breakfast, lunch. I agree. I think it's stigmatizing to target by income. Just because you're of a higher income or just over the income eligibility threshold doesn't mean that you have access to nutritious, high quality food. Food is a healthcare issue. Food is an education issue. It is unconscionable to me that we have kids that are going to bed hungry at night and that are showing up to school hungry in the morning. And so absolutely, I fully support any investment that's going to make sure that our kids are well fed and nourished. Thank you.
Okay. Greg?
Across the state, we're dealing with an enrollments crisis with fewer children going to school and then less funding going to districts. I'm working hard to flip the funding model so that we are properly funding every district, every child, no matter what zip code you have. Yes, we should be feeding kids, giving them the nourishment they need to learn, and we need to reimagine public schools. Not only are you getting a great meal here, your little brother or little sister has free childcare, and the unoccupied classroom is now being put to purpose. The lonely elder that lives in your community that has an incredible set of skills and life experience is on campus after school, mentoring and guiding and inspiring. Healthcare clinics and mental health counselors are giving their time to help students going through tough stuff, helping to lift up and encourage folks. These are all ways in which we can better deliver for students. With new investments for STEM, I was proud to get over $1 million for Kitsap STEM, and then the arts, so that every child finds their purpose in school and in a loving community. We need all of that and more for our public schools.
Thank you. Okay, this looks to be the last question for tonight's forum. And it says, Washington ranks very low out of all states on the number of psychiatric beds per population. What can be done to ensure access to mental health? Bren, you get to go first on this one.
Thank you. I serve as general counsel for Peninsula Community Health Services, which is a licensed behavioral health agency. So I'm acutely familiar with our entire behavioral health spectrum, and what not just the gaps are, but the opportunities are as well. We need to leverage public-private partnerships. That's how agencies like PCHS, which addresses low to moderate behavioral health needs, Kitsap Mental Health, which deals with acute care, can build out that infrastructure so that youth and families are able to access mental health and substance use disorder treatment. We don't like to call it abuse in the clinical sense. And then also that places like Kitsap Mental Health Services are able to build out schools and additional beds. We also desperately need a medical detox facility here in Kitsap County. I won't talk about Western, but that impacts our criminal legal system as well. So I'm fully for statewide investments, but in the meantime, also focusing on what we can do to build out our behavioral health continuum here in Kitsap County.
Thank you. Greg?
Yeah, as a member of the workforce committee, this is my full focus, healthcare workforce. Right now, the biggest challenge we have, it's beds and facilities. It's also workforce. We don't have enough people to staff this. I'm putting together what will become a $60+ million funding package to build out Olympic College to become our regional hub for behavioral healthcare workforce build out. That will be a very, very big deal. I just had lunch with our Olympic College president and the lieutenant governor down in Olympia on Tuesday to talk about this very subject. We're making progress. We've got to move faster. We also need to be building out facilities. I mentioned the Suquamish Health Center. That's a $4.5 million investment, and then a $773,000 investment to expand Kitsap Mental Health Services. That is capacity in our community. We need more of that. We also need a medical assisted treatment facility so that folks don't have to drive all the way to Tacoma. We need both more facilities and bandwidth there. We need to think bold and think big and really deliver. And that's how I'm operating and how I'm delivering for y'all down in Olympia.
Thank you. John?
Yeah, so I've been working with the Olympic College and the Suquamish tribe. They're using that money that Greg was able to get for them, and we're looking at how we can combine what they want to do at the Suquamish tribe along with what we could be doing at Olympic College. And our vision is to have a medical, dental, behavioral health facility at the Olympic College where training can take place, but also people can be treated at the same time, all in the same place, saving money for everybody and having better access to care for everybody also. So I think it's a shame that, and I see this too often, that in our state that we rank at the lowest level in so many things that have to do with Medicaid. I think that we need to, again, look at our values. And if our values are those in need, then we need to increase the reimbursement rates and spend more money in building facilities and training our next generation of healthcare workers.
Thank you. the closing statements, I want to let you know that the video of this forum will be available in a couple of days at our website, LWV-Kitsap.org. So tell your family and friends and supporters that maybe weren't able to tune in tonight to go to our website, and they can watch the recording of the video. But I did notice we have around 53 participants tonight, so that's good. And the recording of this event is owned by the League of Women Voters of Kitsap and may not be used for any purpose without the explicit written permission of the League of Women Voters of Kitsap. And now for your closing statements. We'll go in this order: Bryn, then John, then Greg. So Bryn.
Thank you again. Thank you, Catherine, and thank you so much again to the League. For my closing statement, I would actually like to answer two questions that I get at the doors that the League would not be asking me and that my fellow candidates just don't get asked. And that is, as a working mom, they ask if I have the capacity to be effective in Olympia with two young children, because my children are 3 and 5, and I'm the only parent of the Democrats in this race. And my answer is absolutely I can be effective. Fewer people know how to manage time better than parents. And we've been in this race for almost 3 months now. Again, we've knocked over 8,000 doors thanks to dozens of volunteers. While a mom, I worked on our Supreme Court for Justice U. While a mom, I am general counsel at one of our largest employers in Kitsap County, one of our largest primary care providers in Kitsap County. And, nobody questions military service families either when it comes to, being away and having small children. So I absolutely can do this job, even having 2 small children. And I think it makes me stronger in my work ethic and conviction. Second, they ask if we need another lawyer in Olympia. And we've had people on this stage say we don't need another lawyer in the legislature. And I think right now the answer is absolutely we need another lawyer. In working at our Supreme Court, I know our state constitution well, and I have solutions and plans about how to fight against our federal Supreme Court decisions that have been coming down. I think now that more than ever, we need people who, I see I'm out of time. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. And now, John.
Sure. First of all, I'd like to thank you, Catherine, and the League of Women Voters for this opportunity to be at this forum. And I want to thank those folks who did tune in so that they could be better informed about their vote. Right now, our economy is suffering. We are paying too much for groceries and fuel. We're paying too much for healthcare, and people are having a hard time making decisions on how to spend their money, working 2 or 3 jobs to make ends meet. Our housing is too expensive, and with cost of rents and homeowner doubling over the last 10 years, the American dream of home ownership and the wealth it generates and the stabilization that comes with it are out of reach for too many people. If we are to address the housing crisis, we need to look for solutions that create more affordable land to build on, solutions that will allow communities to expand their current zoning and building codes. We need to streamline our permitting process, and we need to encourage our next generation of workers to go into the trade industries. Not everyone needs to have a college education to have a high quality of life. As a Kitsap native, a small business owner, and a children's dentist, I understand our community's challenges, and right now we need bold leadership and collaboration. We need a leader in Olympia who can get berries in the water, create jobs, and make housing more affordable. And I thank you for this opportunity, and remember to vote for the primary that's coming up soon. And if you would like to know more about my campaign, you can find me at votedrjohngibbons.org. Thank you.
Thank you. Greg?
Yes, Catherine and the League, thank you so much for convening. I am deeply honored to be your state representative down in Olympia and to be delivering for our Kitsap community. We have a special community, and we've got to keep fighting to keep it so. I'm honored to be delivering for us, securing $80 million to fix our ferries, cutting cancellations by half in my first 9 months in the role, expanding affordable childcare for hundreds and hundreds of families in Kitsap, tens of thousands across the state, working to build our healthcare workforce so that we have better mental health, we have better access right here in our backyard, instead of having to travel across the water or down to Tacoma. Those are tangible wins that I'm working hard to bring to our district. I've learned how to build coalitions effectively, both with fellow Democrats and across the aisle with Republicans, to earn overwhelming bipartisan support for each of the priorities I just mentioned. I bring people together, I think outside the box, and then we get the majority that we need to actually make it happen. I'm honored to be delivering for you. And leaders in Olympia have taken note. I am honored to be endorsed by 46 of my fellow Democratic state representatives. I'm honored to be endorsed by our Attorney General and next Governor, Bob Ferguson, by both tribes here in Kitsap, the Suquamish tribe and the Port Gamble-Sklallam tribe, by all 4 Kitsap firefighter unions, and over 600 affiliated unions across the state, because I'm delivering for our workforce, I'm delivering for our neighbors, and I would be honored to earn your vote as well. Thank you.
And thank you all. I have said this for many years at the end of these forums that I've moderated, and I've moderated for years. I am so proud to be a member of the 23rd Legislative District. I asked you at the beginning to please be respectful of each other. I don't think I had to ask you. And you were. You're nice people. I hope that those watching listened closely and will vote in the primary for one of you at least. Okay, and so have a good evening. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.